Right. So today we're gonna take a deep dive into Activision Blizzard,
Okay.
a company that's well, they're a giant
Yeah,
in the gaming world. Um, you've probably played at least one of their games,
definitely.
and from Call of Duty to World of Warcraft
Mm-hmm.
to even Candy Crush.
Yeah, they run the gamut.
They've got their fingers in a lot of pies.
For sure.
But being a giant in the gaming world doesn't necessarily mean that it's all
Right.
sunshine and roses.
It's tough business.
So we're gonna kind of look into what makes them tick,
Yeah,
some of their strengths, some of their weaknesses,
for sure.
and what the future might hold for them.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about Activision Blizzard is that they've managed to cultivate this massive presence. But at the same time, they've had to navigate some pretty choppy waters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's start with their franchises.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they're known for. Call of Duty
Yeah.
is it's a behemoth. Those annual releases, and then you've got Warzone on top of that.
Right, and it's interesting how they've adopted that multi-platform approach,
Right.
similar to what we see from companies like Epic Games,
Yeah.
reaching a wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
But it does raise the question of how sustainable is that in the long run?
Right.
Especially as we see these platform exclusivity deals becoming more and more common.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then you've got like the classic World of Warcraft.
The MMO.
Yeah, that practically defined that genre.
It did. It really did.
It's been around forever, and people are still playing it like crazy.
World of Warcraft, I think, is really an example of the power of crafting a world that is so rich and immersive that people actually want to live in it.
Yeah.
They've got constant expansions, new storylines, new raids, and they've really managed to keep that world feeling alive even after all these years.
I mean, how do you do that? How do you keep something like World of Warcraft fresh?
It's tough.
For, not just veteran players, but also like new players who are coming to it for the first time.
Yeah, you have to cater to that nostalgia factor while also pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
Introducing new mechanics or new narratives.
Right.
Otherwise, you risk alienating both sides.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we've got these long-running hits, but then they've also got these newer titles like Overwatch, which
Overwatch was great.
Yeah.
Really shook things up in the hero shooter scene.
Yeah, with its unique character roster. And
Right.
there's a great emphasis on team play.
Overwatch was a game changer in terms of just the visual style, the character design, the overall approach to the genre.
Yeah.
It really pushed the boundaries of what a team-based shooter could be.
Totally. And then there's Diablo 4,
Yeah,
which, tapped into that nostalgia,
right.
but also modernized the gameplay.
They did a good job with that.
Yeah.
Diablo 4 was a smart move. They recognized, the love for the original games, but they incorporated new elements to appeal to a more modern gaming audience. You have to balance honoring the past and embracing the future.
Yeah. And of course, we can't forget Candy Crush,
Oh, yeah.
the king of casual gaming.
Yeah.
It's practically a global phenomenon.
I think everyone's played Candy Crush at some
Like
point.
at some point, yeah.
Candy Crush is interesting. It's just simple, addictive, perfectly tuned to mobile gaming.
Yeah. So they clearly know how to make games that people love, but there's more to it than that.
Oh, yeah.
They are masters
Yeah.
of monetization.
Absolutely.
And I don't just mean selling the games themselves.
You're right. They've figured out how to keep those coffers overflowing.
Yeah.
Whether it's microtransactions in Call of Duty,
Right.
Warzone, and Overwatch 2,
Right.
subscriptions for World of Warcraft, or those big expansions,
Yeah.
They've really found a way to...
It's like they've created their own economies
Nice.
inside of these games.
Yeah.
And they're the central bank.
They are the central bank.
But that's led to some controversy too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Games like Diablo Immortal
Right.
faced a lot of backlash for their monetization practices.
Mm-hmm.
Players felt like they were being pressured to spend a ton of money just to stay competitive.
Yeah, like it was rigged from the start.
Right. And it's a question of,
Yeah.
where's the line between offering players options
Right.
and sort of pushing them towards spending more?
Yeah. How much is too much when it comes to in-game purchases?
Yeah. And how do these practices actually affect the overall player experience?
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk.
It is.
And then of course there's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The controversies surrounding Activision Blizzard's workplace culture.
Those reports of harassment, discrimination,
Right.
the toxic work environment,
Yeah.
That was incredibly damaging, not just to their image, but to their employees.
It's a reminder that,
Yeah.
a company's success can't come at the cost of its employees'
Absolutely.
well-being. I mean,
Yeah.
this led to lawsuits, employee walkouts, a lot of bad press.
It did. And it also brought a lot of regulatory scrutiny,
Yeah.
putting their workplace practices under the microscope,
Right.
but also their monetization systems.
So they've got some stuff to deal with.
They do.
So, it's not all sunshine and rainbows,
It's not.
even for a company as big as Activision Blizzard.
And I think it's important to acknowledge those weaknesses
Yeah.
because they really do have an impact on their future.
Right.
And, one of their biggest vulnerabilities is their reliance on those core franchises we talked about.
Right. It's like they're putting all their eggs in one basket.
It is.
But that basket's getting a little bit wobbly.
It is a little wobbly.
What happens when, Call of Duty
Right.
kind of runs dry, or
Yeah.
people get tired of raiding in World of Warcraft?
That dependence on established franchises is definitely a double-edged sword. Gives them stability, predictable revenue.
Right.
But it also makes them very vulnerable to shifts in the market.
Yeah.
Changes in player preferences.
And there's been a lot of talk about franchise fatigue,
There has.
especially with Call of Duty. A new game almost every year.
It's tough to maintain that level of innovation
Right.
and excitement with every release.
Yeah.
And, eventually players are going to want something new.
Right. Something fresh.
Something that breaks the mold.
Yeah. And then there are those esports ventures,
Right.
the Call of Duty League and the Overwatch League.
Yeah, those had so much potential.
Yeah. It seemed like a sure bet at first.
It did.
Yeah.
Capitalizing on this rising popularity of esports.
Right.
But they've faced some hurdles.
Yeah.
Declining viewership,
Yeah.
criticisms of the management,
Mm.
a lot of uncertainty about their future.
It seems like the hype has kind of faded a little bit.
It has.
Yeah. So what does all this mean for Activision Blizzard?
Right.
They've got these massive strengths, but they've got these pretty significant weaknesses.
It's a crucial moment for them.
Yeah.
They need to assess their position, acknowledge their vulnerabilities,
Right.
and make some strategic decisions to ensure their future.
Well, let's take a deeper look at those potential paths.
Okay.
We'll explore the opportunities and threats that they face, and maybe we can get a glimpse into what the future holds for this gaming giant.
That sounds good. Yeah, it really is. Like, they're standing at this edge
Yeah.
of a vast, uncharted territory with all these different paths in front of them.
Yeah, it's a little daunting, isn't it?
It is.
It's trying to predict the future of a company as complex as Activision Blizzard.
Yeah,
But that's what we do, right?
I guess so.
We try to analyze the possibilities and maybe offer some educated guesses.
Well, let's start with the most immediate thing on the horizon. That potential acquisition by Microsoft, if that goes through,
Right.
it could completely change Activision Blizzard as we know it.
Yeah, this isn't just some small merger.
No.
This is like two titans
Yeah,
coming together.
it is.
What does that even look like?
I mean, it's hard to say for sure
Yeah.
until it actually happens.
Yeah.
But the implications are huge.
Yeah.
Think about all the resources Microsoft brings.
Right.
I mean, their financial power,
Mhm.
their cloud infrastructure,
Right.
their network of studios and developers.
It's like Activision Blizzard gets a supercharge.
It is.
Right. Access to all this stuff they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, and from Microsoft's point of view,
Mm-hmm.
they gain control of some of the most popular franchises out there.
Yeah.
And that really bolsters their Game Pass library. It could solidify them as a dominant force.
I mean, imagine
Yeah.
Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Overwatch, all available through Game Pass.
Yeah, that's huge.
That changes things.
Yeah, it's not just about the games themselves, though.
Right.
It's about the synergies
Okay.
that could happen between the companies.
Yeah.
Microsoft's expertise in cloud computing could really revolutionize how Activision Blizzard develops and delivers games.
Yeah, imagine playing World of Warcraft on your phone.
Right.
Just stream through the cloud.
Yeah.
That's the kind of future this could unlock.
That's the kind of future.
Yeah.
But of course, there are downsides.
Right.
Anytime you have a merger this big,
Mm-hmm.
there's always a risk of culture clashes,
Right.
maybe creative stifling,
Yeah.
loss of that unique identity.
Right, like mixing two really powerful ingredients.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get.
You could get something amazing.
Yeah.
You could get a mess.
You could get a mess.
Yeah.
And then there's the regulatory landscape
Oh, yeah.
to think about.
Right.
Governments all over the world
Mm-hmm.
are really scrutinizing these mega mergers.
Yeah.
They're worried about monopolies.
And the impact on competition.
So it's not just about the two companies agreeing.
No.
They've got to convince everybody else that this is a good thing.
They have to.
Yeah.
It's a high-stakes game
Yeah.
with a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah.
And the outcome is uncertain.
Very uncertain.
But, you know, regardless of whether this Microsoft thing happens,
Right.
Activision Blizzard needs to chart a course for the future.
Mm-hmm.
One path that I think is interesting is developing new IPs.
Right. New intellectual properties.
Yeah.
It's like they've been relying on the same
Yeah.
familiar faces for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But what if they brought in some new blood?
What if they did?
New characters, new worlds, new experiences.
I mean, it's risky,
Yeah.
but it could be really rewarding.
Yeah.
Creating a new IP.
Mm.
It's like striking gold.
Blah.
It can bring in so much revenue,
Right.
expand their player base, really reinvigorate their creative energy.
It's like tapping into that sense of wonder,
It is.
of discovery.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that comes with exploring something totally new.
Yeah. But it is a gamble.
Oh, it is?
How do you capture lightning in a bottle?
Right. It's like trying to create the next Fortnite,
Yeah.
the next Minecraft.
Right.
It's a cultural phenomenon.
It is, but it's rare.
It's so rare.
It is.
But when it happens, it's massive.
It's about pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
taking risks,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even breaking some rules.
Yeah.
And Activision Blizzard has the talent to do that.
They do.
They have the resources.
They have the experience.
They've got it all.
But it's not just about creating new games.
No.
Right? It's about creating new ways for players
Yeah.
to connect with each other
Mm-hmm.
and connect with the games themselves.
Absolutely.
The gaming landscape is changing.
It is.
You know, it's becoming more social, more
Yeah.
collaborative.
Yeah.
It's more about those shared experiences.
The days of solitary gaming are over. People want to connect,
They do.
share their experiences, build communities.
Yeah, like those in-game events
Yeah.
and community challenges.
Yeah.
We see in games like Fortnite, Destiny.
Right.
It's not just about playing the game.
No.
It's about fostering
It is.
that sense of community,
It is.
giving players a reason
Right.
to come together
Exactly.
and share those experiences.
It's about creating a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
A shared identity.
And that brings us back to those workplace culture issues.
Yeah.
You can't really talk about
Yeah.
the future of Activision Blizzard
Mm.
without talking about that.
This is where the talk about innovation
Yeah.
and new IPs needs to meet reality.
Yeah.
You can't build a better future
Mm-hmm.
if you're still dealing with the past.
Yeah, it's like trying to build a skyscraper
Right.
on a shaky foundation.
Exact.
It might work for a while, but eventually
Yeah, those cracks are going to show.
those cracks are going to show.
They need to show that they're committed to change.
Yeah.
And not just with their words, but with their actions.
It's about a real shift in the company's culture,
It is.
one that permeates every level of the organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about creating an environment where creativity can thrive,
Mm-hmm.
where different perspectives are welcomed,
Yeah, right.
where everyone feels like they're part of something special.
Yeah. And let's not forget about those monetization models.
Oh, yeah.
They faced backlash with Diablo Immortal,
They did.
and they need to learn from that.
Absolutely.
They've got to find a balance
Mm.
between making money
Right.
and keeping the trust of their players.
And keeping that goodwill.
Yeah.
That means finding monetization systems that are more player-friendly,
Right.
that don't feel predatory.
Right. Like those cosmetic-only microtransactions
Exactly.
where players can personalize their characters
Yeah.
without feeling like they're
Right.
getting nickeled and dimed.
Yeah. Or maybe subscription models
Mhm.
that offer more value,
Right.
more transparency, where players feel like they're getting their money's worth.
Right.
It's about finding solutions that benefit everyone,
Yeah.
creating a more enjoyable gaming ecosystem.
So it sounds like Activision Blizzard has a lot on their plate.
They do.
They've got these amazing opportunities,
Yeah,
but these serious challenges.
they do.
It's a pivotal moment for them.
It is.
The choices they make now will shape their future.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, it's like we're watching this high-stakes game play out in real time.
It is.
But instead of controllers,
Yeah.
they're using business strategies
Right.
and creative visions.
It really shows you how dynamic the gaming industry is.
Yeah.
What works today might not work tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The companies that can adapt and innovate are
Right.
the ones that are going to succeed.
Yeah, they're constantly leveling up,
They are.
facing new challenges,
Mm-hmm.
acquiring new skills.
It's like a video game.
Yeah,
There are no guarantees.
right.
You can do everything right and still lose.
Mm-hmm.
but it's how you get back up. Right.
How you learn from those mistakes.
Yeah.
That determines whether you'll be successful in the long run.
So where does this leave us?
Right.
We've explored the highs and lows of Activision Blizzard.
We have.
Their strengths, their weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats.
We've gone deep into those iconic franchises.
Yeah.
We talked about their monetization strategies.
That's right.
And those workplace culture challenges.
We even tried to predict the future a little bit,
Yeah.
With the Microsoft acquisition and the possibility of new IPs.
It's been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Into a company that really represents both the success and the struggles of the gaming industry.
But the question remains,
Yeah.
what does the future hold for Activision Blizzard?
That is the million-dollar question.
It is.
And I don't have a crystal ball.
I wish we did.
I know, me too.
But we can analyze the trends.
Right.
We can assess the risks,
Mm-hmm.
and we can make some predictions.
You can make some educated guesses, at least. So let's put on our prognosticator hats for a minute
Okay.
and consider a few possibilities.
Okay, I like it.
If they can make this Microsoft acquisition work,
Mm-hmm.
if they can address those internal cultural issues,
Right.
they could become even more dominant.
Yeah, they could.
Imagine a future where all their games are part of the Xbox ecosystem,
Right?
leveraging the power of cloud gaming.
A future where their franchises keep evolving.
Yeah.
With new stories,
Right.
innovative gameplay,
Mm.
immersive worlds.
But there's also a path where they stumble,
Right.
where they fail to adapt,
Yeah.
where they become too reliant on those old franchises.
Yeah, and that leads to stagnation,
Yeah.
declining player interest.
They become a cautionary tale,
Right.
a reminder that even the biggest giants can fall
Yeah.
if they don't innovate.
And then there's that path less traveled,
Okay.
the one where they take risks,
Yeah.
they invest in those new IPs,
Uh-huh.
and they prioritize building a healthy workplace.
Right, a culture of creativity and inclusivity.
Exactly.
That's the path where they could really redefine themselves.
Yeah.
Shed the baggage of the past
Mm-hmm.
and become a leader, not just in gaming,
Right.
but in the whole entertainment landscape.
A leader in technology as well.
Yeah.
It's a future where they're not just making games, they're
Oh.
creating experiences.
Yeah, experiences that push the boundaries.
That challenge the conventions.
Yeah.
That inspire a whole new generation.
But in the end,
Yeah,
their fate is in their own hands.
it is.
The choices they make today
Mm-hmm.
will determine their legacy tomorrow.
And that brings us to the main point of this deep dive.
Okay.
This isn't just about Activision Blizzard. This is
Right.
about the entire gaming industry.
It is.
We need to recognize that games are more than just entertainment.
Yeah, they're a powerful force.
They are.
They shape culture.
Mm,
They influence behavior.
absolutely.
They connect people
They do.
all over the world.
We need to demand better from the companies that make these games.
Yeah.
We need to hold them accountable, and we need to advocate for a more ethical and sustainable gaming ecosystem.
And we need to remember that we have power as gamers.
We do.
We can influence the industry.
Through the choices we make,
Mhm.
through our voices,
Yeah.
through collective action.
Yeah, the future of gaming isn't set in stone.
It's not.
It's shaped by all of us.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Activision Blizzard,
Yeah.
we'll leave you with this.
Okay.
Don't just be a passive observer.
Right.
Be an active participant.
Engage in those discussions.
Yeah.
Support developers who are making ethical and innovative games. And use your voice.
Because the games we play
Yeah.
are a reflection of who we are and the world we want to create.
Absolutely.
And that's a responsibility we all share.
I think so.